the outlook? A lot of new guys, some guys back from last year. Different looking team, but I guess what are the expectations heading into the season?
Well, like I just said off camera, I'm going to say it on camera now. You're the longest tenure guy I've had now. So, hey, it's your third year. Glad to see you back for another year, too. Every coach likes their team this time of year. That's just where it is. But I can say this. I don't like my team. I love my team. Been at this a long time. Had some pretty good teams, pretty good players. But I haven't been much more excited any time than I am about this team. Like you just said, we have some returners. We have some newcomers. But I like how my pieces fit. I like our experience. And I like our young men. You put all those things together with some talent, I think it's going to be a really exciting team.
I guess starting with some of the guys coming back, I guess starting off with Jamar and Jarius Hamilton, because they were the two that went in the portal and decided to come back. I guess what was that process like, and how much does it mean to have those two experienced guys back with this group?
Well, it's just a process we live in today's world. But, fortunate for us, both of them in the end understood that everything they're looking for and need, they don't have to go anywhere else to get it. They get it right here at Western Kentucky. And that's the biggest thing. As you all know, there was a lot of programs in here trying to pull at Jamar. Jarius had opportunities. Other guys had opportunities. They all have opportunities. But at the end of the day, all those young men that we wanted back are back. I think it tells you a lot about them as people, their loyalty, their belief in this program, and their belief in their teammates, for them to walk away from opportunities they had. Everybody's heard the rumors of opportunities, so I don't even have to get into that. The main thing is that both of those guys, Jamar and Jarius, are both back, and I'm looking for big things from both of them. Both of them were unknown players last year. No one knew what to expect from Jamar because he hadn't played. And for him to come in and, again, play the amount of minutes that he played, didn't have the success that he had. Defensive player of the year, leading the country in block shots. There's no substitute for that experience. Jarius was a guy that we didn't have the benefit of really recruiting him. It was off Zooms. Him not knowing us not knowing him as well. And I think the biggest thing with him, he had a good year for us, but being more consistent. And I really think just being familiar with each other in the program, it's going to help him. He's had a really good summer for us. I think he's in a really good place. So we're excited. Both of those guys are back for sure.
Coach, it seemed like there was not a lot of depth last year with a lot of scenarios, a lot of injuries.
Think so?
How do you feel about depth going into this?
You're a real basketball guy. You found that, saw that, huh? Well, trust me, we didn't plan on that. But I'm going to say this. We played 6 guys last year. We didn't win all the games we wanted to win. But I couldn't have been more proud of what those guys did. We did it with 6 guys. We had a little bump in the road there in the middle of the season. Then for those guys turn around and win 8 or 9 out of your last 10, they gave me everything they could possibly give me. And that's, as a coach, that's all you can ask. We weren't planning on, Keith Williams not getting eligible last year and Zion Harmon, his situation. So, but sometimes you just got to play the cards you dealt, and our guys competed and they played hard, and I was proud of them for that. It's very obvious we have a lot more depth now. Basically, that whole team, those starters back, and one starter we lose was Cam Justice, and now he's a coach. So he's back in a role that we used him a little bit on that floor last year as a coach. He's just not going to be between the lines doing it this year. Then you add some newcomers. Aycock, Rawls, guy everybody's familiar with, Rawls, who played 2 years here, and you know, decided that year that he wanted to go try to play a bigger role somewhere, and he left. And after he left, figured out I like Western Kentucky, and came back. I didn't hold it against him because he was a good young man when he was here, and he was a good player for us. If you remember, he started as a freshman. We make one free throw, we win a championship as a freshman with him. So he's been a really good player. Had 21 at Alabama, and there's no question coming back now with his mindset the way it is, wanting to be here in the worst way. He's only become a better player for us. He's had a great summer. Christian Landers is another kid from Indiana, a guard that's probably done some things a little better than we anticipated. Didn't know what to expect for sure. You know, when you go to one school and you don't play a whole lot, I was familiar with him out of high school, but you know, we really didn't recruit him because we recruited Zion. But he goes to Indiana and didn't have the success that he wanted there. Didn't play but 10 or 12 minutes a game, but come here this summer, has done some things a lot better than we anticipated. Shooting the ball, number one, a lot better than we thought. Then you got Dantez Allen, a young man we're really familiar with. We recruited him hard out of high school for 2 years. And, you know, coming from one of the best programs in the country, he's had a lot of experience, maybe not as playing, but just being around a high-level program. And he's had his moments, just very inconsistent moments. But the good thing with all those kids right there is that Landers is third-year sophomore, Dante's a fourth-year sophomore. So they come in with some experience, but still have a lot of playing experience left in front of them.
So, Coach, speaking of those bigger schools, so Davion tweeted about a little bit over a week ago. He said, crazy the top teams be running and not answering the phone when it comes to scheduling. Why do you think that is?
You been coming to our games? You come to our games?
I do.
You follow us the last 4 or 5 years? What's our record against Power 5?
Very good.
Just know this, out of 20 Power 5 games, 16 of them has been on the road, away from here. And we're 11-9 against them. So, scheduling, you know, it's always about recruiting and scheduling. And I can promise you, as difficult as recruiting is, scheduling's become the most difficult thing. And when you ask yourself this, and I ask my coaches this, would you play us? The answer is most times no. So there's nothing to really get upset about. I wouldn't play us. And that's not being disrespectful to anybody. But it's hard to get those kind of games. Again, I was willing as a head coach, now I promise you I'm the first to ever do this, I'm willing to go on the road and open up at Eastern Kentucky. Now tell me what a head coach would do that. Their Super Bowl game, their biggest rivalry, we have nothing to gain from it. But we know how good Eastern is there at home. But again, I believe in our team. Going on the road hardens your team up, makes you better. There's nothing better than winning on the road, and it gives us great, great experience right off the bat before we go to the Cayman Islands. Have to play a really tough schedule down there. But again, that's how difficult scheduling is. We're even willing to go on the road and play. And it's no secret. We were willing to go on the road and play at Arkansas. Wanted to play. Tried our best to. And there were several other situations like that. But we couldn't get them to play us at home. Do you understand why?
They don't want to lose.
Well, were they losing or not? They got a great team and a great program. They're a top 10 team in the country. But we have played them. Last 2 times we played them, and we're 2-0 against them. Now, I'm not saying we could go in there and win, but they weren't willing to play us. And not just them. You can go down that top Every Power 5 team in the country got called but Western Kentucky, one way or the other. Thankful enough, we do get a game at South Carolina. We get South Carolina coming back in here next year. We got another return game at Louisville. You know, we open up at Cayman Islands against a really good Akron team that won that league last year, went to the NCAA tournament, had UCLA beat in the NCAA tournament. They basically got the whole team back. If you're fortunate enough to win that one, you got LSU. So we've got a really good schedule and challenging schedule, but I was trying to put this team in a more challenging situation. 2 or 3 more of them if we could. Just couldn't get them. Wouldn't happen.
We've talked a lot about some guys on your team. The one that probably played more than anybody else last year, but I don't think we have Davion. How have you seen him, grow and take on a bigger role, if that's possible heading into this year?
Well, I don't know if it's possible to take on a bigger role than he had. He had too much on his shoulders last year. 30, how many minutes? Dana, you got to learn that stat sheet in front of you. And I'd look at Zach every time he'd tell me how many minutes.
Probably 35.
At least.
At least. If
Boy,
not
at
38.
least 38 probably. You have a stat sheet in front of you?
I do not.
It had to be more than 35.
I would say 36 and a half is my guess.
And anyway, here's what you know when you feel good as a coach. Two positions that as a coach you go into your season you want to be good at, point guard and bigs. And we have depth at both spots right now. And just not the depth, we have quality guys starting. And McKnight, y'all have heard me talk about him over and over and over. He's as good as I've had. I've had good ones, and that caused me to get phone calls from other ones now. But that's what he is. That's how much I believe in him. The jump he took from his freshman to sophomore year, you saw what that was. And there'll be a different kind of jump he'll take this year than last year. But again, the average 6.5 assists, 6.5 rebounds a game, played the amount of minutes he played, defending point guards for 35, 36, 37 minutes a game. He'll become a better player when we can get him more rest. We can back those minutes off some. It'll make him a more productive player, whatever those stats are. Where those stats are as good, but he'll be a better player, being able to rest him some. And as you know, last year there was no rest. There was absolutely none. And that's what, when you know you're starting off with him at the point and Jay at the 5, you're in pretty good position defensively both those spots. Then you add in a Jarius that's been around, a Luke's been around, and then you bring in a very versatile player in Aycock, really versatile. He played point guard at Boise. That's what he was. Probably played 80% of his minutes at the point guard, 6'8". But he can play 1 through 4. He's been really good for us. He's a mature young man. He talks. That's hard to get guys to do nowadays, talk. But he brings a level of maturity about him that's hard to, teach. And like I say, he's been a great teammate. Then you sprinkle those other guys in around him, Rawls and Dantez and Landers, and we got Big Darius back that was redshirted last year, who's lost 70 pounds now. So that tells you a little bit about his mental makeup. None of us in this room could lose 70 pounds. I couldn't for sure. It tells you how hard he's worked, and he's gotten better. Probably the young man that's didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to expect from him. But when we signed him, we knew he was going to be a really good player. But after we signed him, 2 days after, he tore his knee up. So he didn't play this past year. He gets the COVID year back, so he's still a freshman. He got cleared after surgery. He worked out in June, July, individually, was really good. He got cleared for contact about a month ago. And he's probably been the biggest surprise of anybody. It's Falou, 6'11" kid. He's been really, really good. Can really, really shoot the basketball at 6'11". One of our better shooters on the team. Everything else about him, I didn't know where he would be. All of it's way ahead of schedule. His feel, his mobility, his ability to score in that post a little bit. He's been really good. And the other JC kid we signed, And we signed a couple JCs last year because we knew we could get that year back. Even Flu's a freshman. Tyrone Marshall's a sophomore, third-year sophomore. Probably been better than we thought. One of those old junkyard dog type players. Just plays hard. He's tough. Scores multiple ways. Again, I like our pieces. I like our team. Our team seems to really compete, and depth brings out the best and the worst in you. We got competition, and we've got good, talented competition. So as you hear me, you can tell I'm excited about this team. Here's what I want to get done. I want to get this diddle back the way it was before COVID. Before COVID hit, those 2 previous years, this was where y'all come in now. We can put our heads together as we move forward. That's where you come in. We got to sell diddle back out. And before COVID, those 2 previous years, we had it sold out preseason. This team right here, this is about an exciting team you have an opportunity to watch. It's not many 7'5" guys going down the court like this big guy's going with all these pieces and point guards and ability to score around him. So that's our challenge. And I'm going to challenge everybody, and we'll get our heads together, Jared, what everybody can do. But we want to get this thing back sold out preseason before we get started and get this atmosphere the way it was 2 years ago.
Kind of going back to the returners, I know you touched on Luke a little bit. He's probably the oldest guy on the team now, married guy. Him and Cam were last year. What does it mean to have someone like him back? Not just the shooting that he brings to the table, or some of the defense, some of those things, but just that experience.
Well, him along with some other guys. Jairus is a 5th-year guy. Luke is just 5 or 6? 6.
Yeah, he's the oldest.
There's no substitute for that. Dave's the 3rd year. Acock, 6. So there's 2 6-year guys right there. Jamar is a 4.
4.
Pretty good experience in that group of guys. Rawls is a 4. So back to Luke. Someone sent me a picture a couple of weeks ago what he looked like when he first came in here. A little bit different. And I'll tell you where I'm proud of Luke at. And I made a comment somewhere speaking here recently about it. This tells you what kind of person he is, what kind of teammate he is. And this is a little different. It's a little thing, but it's a big thing in your chemistry and makeup of your team. After every practice, Dana, I don't know if you're in there all the time after practice, but you will. You've been around. There's one guy I'll go around to every coach and every player and dap him up before he leaves. That's Luke.
Staff member, managers too.
Does managers?
He does it to me too. Yeah.
Does you too. Tells you a little bit what kind of person he is right there. No matter if he has a good day, bad day of practice, I like that. That's a great teammate. Academically, when he first came in here, he'd be the first to tell you, Coach, I don't like school. I can't do my work. Well, he's 3 hours away from getting his degree now, too. He's gotten married. He's in a really good spot. And I'll say this about him. His game will be a whole lot better when you have more people who can get in the lane and create shots. Last year, we had one guy get in the lane. Now I can talk to my coach last year and get on him about it, and that's Cam Justice. Now he gets the other side of it. And again, how good Cam was for us last year was amazing coming out of the academic room. But we didn't have a lot of guys who could manufacture baskets. Davey was one guy got in that lane over and over. We got multiple guys can do that now. There's 4 point guards out there. You can call them what you want to call them. As a player, you don't want to be called a certain position. You want to be a non-positional player. A guy can play multiple positions. But there's 4 guys in that perimeter can get in that lane. And that, in turn, helps Luke. Helps Luke gets better shots, better timing on his shots. So he's been really good for us this summer, too.
You've always been known throughout your career as a very good recruiter. A lot of these national, I know you say you don't pay attention to some of these news articles, but maybe one of the top recruiters in the country. How has that changed these last few years in your philosophies or your, procedures and the way you go about recruiting kids with all of these transfer rules and COVID years and NIL and everything like that?
Well, I think because of COVID, it was most difficult because you weren't able to get face-to-face with young men, meet their families, spend time with their families. That's what made it difficult. I think the one thing is still constant in recruiting, you better have relationships and not just know somebody, but have a relationship with somebody. And recruiting depends so much on that nowadays. And been at it a few years. I don't know if it's 39 or 40, Jerry, you can check on it. It's 39 or 40 years of recruiting. You have quite a bit of relationships and contacts built up. So I really hadn't changed. Same guy I always was. Situations caused us to do it a little bit differently. The way you had to do it through COVID, that was difficult. Let's just be real about it. That's hard. You just don't know what you get. You can't look through that Zoom and figure out what a guy's made up of. You can spend more time recruiting him and figure it out a little bit. You're not going to get that right all the time. But on a Zoom, it was really impossible. And we were right some and we were wrong some in the Zoom now. Where I'm not going to talk where we was right or wrong at. You can figure that out. What else, Jared? What else? Give me another one. Laura, give me another question back here. Get used to it now because I'm going to come at you.
That's fine. So basically, obviously, you have some players that have been here at Western their whole college career. Some that have transferred in, some that have potentially gone and come back. So just gelling all those different types of scenarios and players together, like what are your expectations for them as a whole?
Well, I think the first thing in doing all that, and that's going to be college basketball moving forward. No longer is there going to be teams where you bring in guys every year and they stay 4 years. You got a senior group, they've been with you for 4 years. We've got a mature senior group, but none of them's been here 4 years. It's the biggest thing in doing all that is you have good people. And I don't know if I've talked much about that at all. We've talked about their talents of players, but the one thing I do know about this bunch, and I'm just not coaches talk neither, we have good young men, good people. Does that mean they don't do something silly they shouldn't do? So far, no. But when you have good people, there are going to be less moments and situations where they don't do the right things. We've been at it about 4 weeks now, and we haven't missed a class. We haven't missed a breakfast. Had my first late study hall this week. In 4 weeks, it's pretty good, a new bunch. So that's the big key when you're putting some people together. And that's the thing in that portal nowadays. When you're taking guys for 1 year, you've got to be able to, it's not about just gathering players. It's about gathering players that fit what you need, not just physically, but mentally as people too. And that's a challenge sometimes. But one thing that I've said a long time ago, I'm too old to coach knuckleheads. I'm not going to sacrifice talent for character. I'll take less talent, more character, and go win with it. And I think I'm blessed with a very talented bunch, but also a very high character bunch. And those two things together is going to win you a lot of games.
In terms of eligibility and people being able to play right away, with all the transfers coming in, is everybody available day one?
Well, let me say this. We have no Keith Williams that we're trying to get a long waiver on. The first waiver you had to get was Aycock. He's immediately eligible. There's only one other guy on the team we're in the process of getting right now. It's no secret, Rawls, where he becomes immediately eligible coming back. And we feel we know what the worst situation would be. He'd miss 7 games. but we feel very confident that he will be able to play from the get-go. And that's the only other guy we're dealing with. So that's a good thing. Keith was a bad situation. It went into January last year. And our players, I'll never forget it. We got on that plane to go to Florida Atlantic. It was a big disappointment. Our guys knew how good Keith Williams was. They knew how much he was going to help us. We got that word right at the end of practice that he would not be eligible all year long. And, it was a factor for him. And I hated for Keith because it hurt him too. He was a great teammate for us, and, but that's where it is. But we don't have those situations right now. We feel good about the only ones left hanging is Rawls, and we feel very good about it. So we won't have to have a ongoing conversation, I hope. Hopefully real soon, next press conference, that will be cleared up. I don't know when the next press conference is. No hurry on it, are we? Pro day?
Yeah.
Maybe so. Okay. We got to decide if the media is going to be allowed in there or not. You want to come pro day? Or you want to come pro day?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll see what some rulings are with all that. We have a media day set yet?
Not yet, it'll be after that.
Okay. Anything else, Jerry? You got a lot. We hadn't talked a while. We're going down the whole roster now.
We are.
I've got a question about
Yep.
Frampton. When I look at these other guards that are coming in, and you talked about reshaping Davion's role a little bit time-wise, right? I mean, you want him fresher, longer, as we go deeper into the season. What about Luke? Where does Luke fit into the reshaping possibly?
Well, I don't know about reshaping is the right word. I'm not going to change any of those guys. I want them to keep doing what they've been doing. Just the ability to give them a little bit more rest. It'll make them both more productive player. As a shooter, you got to have legs. Luke, again, all those guys played 35-plus minutes last year. And we had 6 guys we played. That's too much through a haul of a season. That's where your depth comes in. And y'all have heard me say this many times, everybody knows 1 through 5, everybody wants to be a starter. But the key to this team, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's the key to your team. Those guys right there. And I don't always start the best players. We'll start maybe different people for different reasons, and maybe a guy's coming off the bench better than the starters. But I can tell you 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We feel like we're 10. There's a lot of starters in that back group that I like to have had, in some other years too. So you can hear me talk. I'm really excited about this basketball team. I don't like his team. I love his team. I love them as players. I love them as people. We're not going to be easy out for anybody. These guys, they work hard. We got really good chemistry for a bunch of new people right now. Today's our real first official so-called practice, but, we've been going at it enough that it'll be a little different today because you start adding a lot of defense. But we've been at it long enough now. I have a pretty good feel who we are.
One more for Coach, 1 or 2?
What time is it?
1:35.
Yep.
Kind of swinging back to DA, Dante, kid I covered back when he was at Pendleton County a little bit. I believe you guys were one of his first, if not his first, offer, out of high school. How important was it to, get him to come here? Because I believe he was kind of that first big name, signing of the offseason, and then Christian, Manuel, and, so forth this year.
Yeah, Manuel went to August or whatever it was. 20th seemed like 21st, first day of school. It was important. He's an in-state guy that we recruited hard 2 years ago, and like I've told him, whatever happened at Kentucky, those are all learning experiences. Don't look at anything as a negative. It's a great program. There's a lot you can take from that. It's going to help you in life. And even things that went wrong, let's learn from those things. Those things, there's sometimes the best lessons are things that go bad, and you learn from those things. So let's take all those negatives, let's make them positive. There's things we have to get better at ourselves now. I don't want, people need to talk to you more about just shooting, making baskets. And that's important. Shooting the basketball is important. Have them say some other things about you. And, and I'm on him big about talking. Come out of your shell. Don't be inward. Don't be a cocoon. Be that flower's going to bloom, and You know, there's no question, here's one thing he does. He does special, shoot the basketball. And we're going to continue to add more things to his game and make him more of a complete player.
Last one.
And the good thing about him, he's a sophomore. He's a sophomore, experienced